This is a site built with Anthropic's Claude Code Design skill, and here is the exact same site also built with the design skill and Firecrawl. Because even though Anthropic recently released this skill that turns your prompts into editable Claude Design artboards, it still doesn't have all the same features as Claude Design, and the code it produces from the designs isn't really that good. But Firecrawl is uniquely positioned to fix both of these issues because its developer index can improve the code from Claude, and its branding-focused scrape can be used to create design systems. So let's go through how these two things can greatly improve Claude's design and coding abilities. And if you like these type of videos, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. Now let's start off by talking about the new design skill that exists in the latest version of Claude Code or Claude Desktop, and you can use it by typing /design in the prompt window, followed by a prompt. So let's try something like a marketing site for a shop that sells houseplants. Now I know there's a much better way to write prompts to design in Claude, and we'll go through that a bit later on in the video. But from here, I'll let Claude go to work, and in a few minutes, it will give the URL to an artifact like this one, which will take me to a page with multiple artboards. So here for desktop, here for mobile, and these ones for these separate pages. And if we wanted to, we could click on any element to change the font size, click on properties to see the full options of things available, or even change the text, but we'll leave it as is for now. We can also add comments by clicking here and then clicking outside of the artboard to write a prompt and send it to Claude. But for some reason, that doesn't work inside the artboard. We can also click and drag items around to see what they'd look like on different parts of the page, and click here to undo those changes. Now this design is really impressive, and the options that this artboard gives you are really useful too. I especially like this note feature that you can leave notes for other people to see, like this note over here, written by Claude, giving information about the design style that was used for the site. But if you usually use Claude Design, you'll quickly realize that a few things here are missing. For example, you don't get access to templates or design systems, and when you click on a design, you don't have the ability to change the layout on the fly, add comments directly on the design to give to Claude, and you don't get the option to view the site in full screen or in a new tab. That's because the new design skill in Claude Code is slightly different because it creates a Claude artifact, but with a Claude Design canvas. Now, this whole feature is in research preview and may have these features added later on in the future. But the weirdest thing is when I asked Claude Code to create code from this design, which is what I did over here with this prompt, asking it to turn the artifact into a demo website. And to be fair, it did a pretty decent job replicating the design exactly. But the code for the website isn't that good. First of all, it chose to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript directly instead of using a JS framework. And even though the HTML and CSS for the site is pretty good, the JavaScript code is absolutely horrible. I mean, first of all, it chose to use an immediately invocable function expression. It's used var instead of let or const. And it's decided not to use arrow functions as callbacks, which makes the code not very maintainable, and adding more features will just make the whole thing worse. And this issue can immediately be fixed by using Firecrawl. Take a look at this. So here I've given Claude a new prompt to read the published artifact and build a coded version under the demo2 directory using the Firecrawl Developer Index skill. Now, the Firecrawl Developer Index can be used with the CLI, the MCP, or language-specific SDKs, and it's indexed over 70 million developer documents from different languages and frameworks, enhancing Firecrawl's already good web search feature by getting the exact technical information you need and giving it to your agent. So here we can see it's reading the artifact. It uses the Firecrawl Developer Index skill to run 8 different shell commands, and if we click on them, we can see it's getting information for Tailwind 4 and PostCSS, and it's getting information from Scratchpad about Next.js, or specifically here, the Next font for Google. So it's built the site from the artifact with Next.js and provided these routes. And here is the running site that looks identical to what I showed you before, but the code for it is much better. We can see here it's got a layout, it's got some site metadata, It's created individual components for each element, as well as for different pages in the site like the hero section. And even though there's more code here, it's much more maintainable and easier to add more features to. Now let's move on to how we're going to improve the design, which would usually be done with a design system from Claude Design, and we can create one using React components from Claude Code, and this can be done using the design sync skill. But the problem with this is that once you've created a design system using /design sync, you can't then use the design skill in Claude Code to benefit from that design system in your future designs. You can only use that design system directly inside Claude Design. So how do we get around this? Well, Firecrawl has a scrape endpoint that can extract screenshots as well as design elements. So I can scrape this URL and also change the format to include branding and screenshots. And with that, once I hit scrape, we can see we get the screenshot for Claude to go through. And we also get different branding assets like the logo, the fav icon, and an open graph image, as well as different components, so primary and secondary buttons. We get all the different colors, the exact font that was used, and more typography information. But Firecrawl can even go further, because it gives you access to this website design clone skill that creates a DESIGN.md file from all the assets provided in the branding and screenshot information. So what I can do is use Site Inspire or similar sites to get inspiration for my plant website, and I like the look and feel of this one, so I'm going to click on it. So the animation works really well. I like the colors and the font that's used. So I'm going to make a note of this URL and give it to Firecrawl, and make sure I have access to the Unsplash or the Lumi API so that images can be used to make the design look better. And with that, I'm going to get Claude to create new designs using this prompt to build a minimal modern site for a shop that sells houseplants. We're going to use Firecrawl to study this site using screenshots and also get brand assets. So this is the American housing site. We're going to enrich our site, so our design, with images from Unsplash or Lumi, and then we're going to create a design system that can be used for the design. So I'll get Claude to go to work, and we can see it uses the Firecrawl website design clone skill to go through the site using the Firecrawl CLI, take a screenshot, and then get all this branding relevant information, including components like inputs, buttons, and so on. And then once it's done, it creates a brand new artifact, which, as we can see, is much better than the design it created before, making use of images, using large fonts where necessary. And we can see, as well as creating multiple artboards for mobile and other parts of the site, it's created 2 pages, including a design system, which contains all the colors, the fonts that were used, buttons, and visual language, all with the help of Firecrawl. And we can even see it created a DESIGN.md file with all of this relevant information for the agent to use. Now from here, I've given Claude a prompt. In fact, I gave it a prompt earlier to see if it could find the artifact that was just created in a new session. And then once it found the artifact, I gave it a prompt to use the Firecrawl Developer Index skill to write the code for the site based on the artifact. And we can see again, it used the skill. And this time it ran commands to learn more about Next.js, specifically the app router, and on how to use the Next.js 15 params. And again, when it finished, it created a site with these routes, which looks exactly like the design we had in the Claude artifact, giving this nice hover effect to all the images, matching the visual style from the reference site I provided. And we even have a working filter showing different plants, and clicking on a plant gives us the option to change some parameters, which also adjusts the price. Now from here, of course, we can continue to iterate on the site. So here is the exact same site with a video in the background and some really nice animations to make it look more professional. If you're interested in navigating through the site and buying some fake plants, I'll add a link to it in the description. But the whole thing took me under an hour to build. I didn't need to install any anti-AI-slopped design skills or libraries. All I needed was Claude Code and Firecrawl. And the crazy part is creating design systems and improving Claude's code is a fraction of what Firecrawl can do. It has a very fast token efficient web search for agents. It can pass PDFs, Word files, Excel documents, and much more for agents to understand. It can crawl every single page on a site, monitor it for changes. It's basically the best way to give context to any AI agent. And if you choose to sign up, you can use this code to get 500 extra credits. Finally, if you want to see how I use Firecrawl to control any website using WebMCP, then check out the next video.